I never put my career before anything else. Watching those who have been exhausted at work all their lives and come to old age unhappy, I realized, in the pursuit of money and fame, they have lost the most important thing, family. I am convinced that there must be a balance between career and personal life. That's why I chose a wife with similar beliefs. However, it turned out that I was wrong in my choice. My name is Jose Fry. I'm 26 years old. My wife Alice works as a secretary for one of the editors of a fashion magazine. I've always admired her passion for her work, but lately I've been worried. She's been obsessed with her career, forgetting about her family and everything else. I'm especially worried about her health since she's pregnant. Alice, are you sure you need this job? Maybe we should stop and think about the health of our baby. I asked her one evening when she came home tired but happy. Jose, I feel great about this job. It's my passion and I can't just give it up. It's a great career opportunity, she replied with a smile, but I saw a spark of stubbornness in her eyes. I couldn't understand her. For me, family had always come first. Work was just a means to secure a future for our child. But Alice saw it differently. Her ambition and her desire to make a mark in the fashion world seemed more important than our family happiness. My fears were heightened when, in her second month of pregnancy, Alice announced that she had been invited to do a topless shoot for a magazine. This is my chance to shine, Jose. I can't miss it, she said, and I voiced my disapproval of the idea. Alice, what will people say? Do you really want our future child to know that his mom was involved in a shoot like this? My words were filled with genuine concern. However, she brushed them off. People will always talk, Jose. I'm doing this for us, for our future. I don't see anything wrong with using my beauty and talent to advance my career, she replied. Her words stunned me. I remembered how in our first year together, when money was tight, she had promised that she would stop working as soon as she got pregnant. Now, however, she was eager for more. You don't understand me. I didn't see any prospects before, but now I have a real chance, she said stubbornly. This conversation infuriated me and led to a serious argument. I was completely unhappy with her decision to participate in such a shoot. Although Alice had no plans to quit, I hoped that she would quit in a few months, especially since it would be hard for her to continue working during her pregnancy. However, I decided to give Alice the opportunity to participate in the photo shoot. I had a plan. If she didn't quit her job later, I would send the magazine pictures to her parents so they would know what their daughter was up to. One evening when I got home from work, Alice greeted me with news that should have surprised me. Jose, I want you to be the first to know. I've been promoted. I'm no longer just an assistant. I've become the face of the magazine. This is my chance to succeed and make a name for myself as a professional model, she said, glowing with happiness. I was stunned. How did this happen? You only participated in one shoot, I asked. That was the one shoot that demonstrated what I was capable of. My photos became so popular that the editors decided I was perfect for the magazine's image. This is my chance, Jose. I can change, and even after the baby is born, I can keep working. They will only need my face during the pregnancy. Her voice sounded confident. I couldn't share her enthusiasm. Alice, what about after the baby is born? Are you willing to leave our baby for work? I asked. The thought that she might choose a career over our family alarmed me. I'm not going to leave our family, she replied. I just want our child to have a mom who takes care of the family and is successful in her profession. I want to be an example for him, she added. We both fell silent. I didn't know how to object to Alice. I loved her and wished her the best, but I couldn't understand how she was going to combine the role of a mother and the face of a fashion magazine. I was afraid that for her, family and our child wouldn't be her top priority. I couldn't help but admire her strength and determination, but at the same time I feared for our future. Alice often complained about her boss, who had no intention of promoting her. She used to come home from work sad and tired, but now she came home as if from a holiday. I know you're worried, Jose, but I promise you that everything will be fine. I'll be able to combine work and family. You believe in me, don't you? She asked me one night. Of course I believe in you, Alice. I just want to make sure we don't forget about the most important thing, our baby and our family, I replied, trying to hide my anxiety. Time passed and Alyssa's pregnancy was progressing. I tried not to argue with her anymore, hoping things would get better. Surprisingly, her career at the magazine was flourishing. She was really becoming the face everyone was talking about. Her face graced the covers, and she often participated in various events and shoots. All the while, I supported her as best I could, but felt the distance between us growing. When the time came for the birth of our son Charles, I hoped that having a baby would bring us closer together. She even decided on her own to put her projects on hold for a couple months. For a moment, it seemed like things were moving in the right direction. Alice was a wonderful mother and clearly expressed her love for her son. However, shortly after Charles was born, she resumed work with renewed zeal. Alice stopped breastfeeding and began spending 10 hours a day in the office, sometimes more. If she had free time, she devoted it to working out at the gym. My parents took over the care of Charles during this time. Every day I was getting angrier and angrier about her absence from home. We missed spending time together, which was taking a toll on our intimate life. It had been 98 days without intimacy, and it was starting to seriously bother me. It was the longest period in my conscious life without sex. To my surprise, Alyssa's parents were supportive of her decisions and initiatives. Her mother herself had once wanted to follow this path, but Alice's birth forced her to give up her modeling career. So she was on her daughter's side. "Alice, we need to talk. I feel like we're drifting apart. Don't you think you're spending too much time at work?" I asked her one night when Charles was already asleep. She looked at me with tired eyes. "Jose, I'm doing all this for us, for our future. I can't stop now when I have so many opportunities while I'm still young," she replied. Then I decided to bring up the subject of sex, which we hadn't had in 3 months. I hoped she would realize that she was really overworked. Instead, however, she did me a favor and we had sex that I couldn't finish because I wasn't in the mood. My doubts about her work were dismissed by her parents and friends, who all told me to back off and not interfere with her progress. I couldn't deny that I even invite her because her income was higher than mine. This allowed her to hire a professional nanny to take care of our son. One day she even told me, "If you wanted to spend more time with your family, you could quit your job." Those words seriously stressed me out. It felt like I had proposed to a completely different woman. I rejoiced in her successes, but my principles and beliefs were shattered. When our son was 2 years old, Alice got in great shape and began to participate more often in candid photo shoots. She used to listen to my opinion, but now I felt out of place, insignificant, and dull against her background. However, this was a small thing compared to the real fear I felt. I couldn't see my traits in my son. When our parents came over, we would discuss who Charles looked more like. His eyes were like my brother Al's, as were his ears, but everything else seemed neither mine nor hers. My parents assured me that Charles was still young and that he would look just like me when he grew up. But I had my doubts. I felt no fatherly love for Charles. He looked like a stranger to me, not mine. It sounded awful, but that was the reality. My doubts that he might not be my son grew every day. I decided to take a DNA test secretly from Alice to dispel my doubts or confirm my worst fears. I took Charles to the hospital under the guise of a checkup and we did the test. The results came back a few days later while Alice was on another business trip filming a commercial. My heart stopped when I opened the envelope. The baby was not mine. This discovery hit me like a thunderbolt. All my fears and doubts were confirmed in the most devastating way. I didn't know how to act. I had 2 options: either leave everything as it was, living in lies and deceit, or expose my wife's infidelity. During the 3 years of intensive work, Alice made quite a bit of money. We renovated the house, bought 2 cars. Then I realized that in case of divorce, I could get a good amount of money. I loved Alice unconditionally, but I would have preferred a modest life to a luxurious one if there was a skeleton in the closet behind it. This was a real shock to me. I had always dreamed of a small house, 2 children, a son and a daughter, and a faithful wife who would always be waiting for me at home. What has happened to my life over the past 3 years has not matched my heartfelt desires. I realized that I needed to take action. My first impulse was to confront Alice and demand an explanation, but I decided I needed to talk to Thomas Galvin, Alice's boss. Initially, I suspected that Alice might have slept with him for a modeling opportunity. I didn't immediately think about it because Alice had been working as a secretary for a long time with no prospects of sudden career advancement. She had gotten pregnant, apparently by accident, and perhaps unaware of the father's identity. After that, her career took off, coincidentally, I thought. Alice was due back from filming with her boss in 3 days, so I waited until that time, gathered my wits, and went to Thomas's main office. My heart was pounding in anticipation of the confrontation. When I entered his office and closed the door behind me, Thomas greeted me with surprise. He was surprised because no one could get through to him so easily. I pretended to be a relative of his and told the girl at the front desk a made-up story. "Who are you and how did you get here?" he asked, starting to reach for the intercom, apparently to ask the receptionist what I was doing here. I quickly walked over and pushed his hand away from the button. "I want to talk to you about a model. Her name is Alice," I began, trying to remain calm. "What exactly do you want to know about her?" he asked. "I want to know what kind of scumbag she slept with," I said seriously. "Oh, I take it you're her husband," he asked. "You're a quick thinker," I said. Noticing him reaching for the phone, I quickly snatched the phone from him. He started to protest. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked. I replied firmly, "Unlike you, I don't allow myself to do much." "What do you want?" he asked hysterically. "I want to know the truth. Did you sleep with my wife?" I asked bluntly. "What makes you think I slept with your wife?" he asked. I realized he wasn't going to tell me anything, so I acted decisively. He started yelling, calling for help, so I had to act faster. I took duct tape and taped his mouth so he couldn't scream anymore. Then I unbuckled his belt and used it to tie his hands together. He sat down in a chair and I leaned over him. "If you won't tell me the truth about what happened between you and my wife, I'll find out another way. But let me warn you, this is going to be extremely painful for you," I said. He started mumbling something inaudible. I removed the duct tape. "Leave me alone. Wait, please. I honestly don't know what you're talking about." "I swear I didn't sleep with your wife," he said. "Are you willing to take a DNA test?" I asked, seeing the genuine surprise on his face. "What test? Why do I have to do that?" he asked in surprise. "Understand, I'm not kidding, or do you really not understand the situation? My wife got the opportunity to participate in filming 3 years ago, even though she had no prospects before. During that period, she got pregnant, and 2 years later, I find out that my child is not my child at all," I said. "It's a tough situation. I'm sorry it happened to you, but I really had nothing to do with it. I can take the test if you want, but I'm on a tight schedule right now," he said. "We're going now," I said threateningly. "Okay, let's go," he said. Thomas and I left the office and drove to the nearest hospital. When he agreed to go with me, I began to doubt that he had anything to do with the baby. But just to be sure, we did the test after all. He promised me that he would not tell my wife about the incident and wished me luck. A few days later, Thomas called me and asked me to come to his office. I rushed there at the first opportunity. I knew that if the result was positive, I would have to face it alone in his office. Upon entering, Thomas handed me the results which showed that his DNA did not match my son's. This meant that he was not Charles' biological father. I felt a sense of confusion. "I'm very sorry this happened to you. It's an extremely unpleasant situation," he said sympathetically. I caught myself apologizing to him, realizing that I had made a mistake and Thomas was not my wife's lover. "Of course, I'm glad we resolved this, but if it weren't for my male solidarity, you would have regretted your actions long ago," he said with a laugh, recognizing the awkwardness of my situation. "In that case, maybe you can help me in some way? Maybe you saw something or Alice was acting suspiciously with someone," I asked. Thomas scratched the back of his head. The only person who was around her was her producer David, a unique but very talented guy. "I don't understand why you didn't go to him directly. It was news to me that Alice was working with a producer." "I thought Alyssa was working with you," I said. "She worked with me while she was my secretary and brought me coffee one time and everyone noticed her. Then our producer suggested she become a model," he explained. "Thanks for the information. Where can I find this David?" I asked. "I don't know why you would want to do that. You don't want to go to such extremes as leaving him disabled for life. It's not worth it, especially since our magazine is actively involved with David. I don't want to lose someone so valuable. If I found out something happened to him, it wouldn't be good for you. This is business. I recommend you better talk to your wife," he concluded and led me out of the office. I promised Thomas that I wouldn't hurt David. I then decided to divorce Alice before the situation got too complicated. I intended to leave with a solid compensation for the deception I had suffered. The day after my conversation with Thomas, I contacted a lawyer. I explained the whole situation to him and described what I wanted to achieve. Alice did not suspect anything yet, and her birthday, which we planned to celebrate in France in 3 weeks, was just around the corner. I asked her for a check, saying that I wanted to surprise her for her birthday. She was surprised as the amount was significant, about $150,000. I promised that she would be thrilled as she had nothing to fear. I also sold the car she gave me almost a year ago, transferred all the money from our joint accounts to my own and cashed it in. After a week and a half, Alice noticed something was going on and decided to talk to me first thing in the evening. "What's going on? Where's your car and where did the money from our account go?" she asked. "It's your payback, honey," I replied. "Payback? What are you talking about?" she asked. I put the divorce papers on the table, along with pictures of her and her lover from the past weeks. I had to hire a private investigator. "What is this? What's going on?" she asked. "You're not the same Alice I married," I said with a sigh. "How is that possible?" she exclaimed. I don't understand it either. I suspected you of adultery, but I hoped to the end that at least the child was mine. But alas, it is the child of your wretched lover. Do you even realize what you have done?" I said loudly. She began to cry. "I repent, I love you, I really do." "It doesn't mean anything." She tried to take my hand. I pulled away and spoke my last words, "So I'm going to leave during the trial. You need to sign the papers. If you don't worry, the court will still hear my lawsuit because it's outright fraud. You wanted me to raise a child I didn't know." "Honestly, I thought it was our child together," she said, choking back tears. "I don't. I'll see you in court. I'm sorry I wasted so much time on you, but at least you have a successful modeling career. Now go kiss your producer and raise your child," I said and walked out of the house, packing my things that were already ready. At the trial I had waited so long for, Alice was losing on all fronts. No one believed that I had stolen money from her because I had cleverly hidden all the money and was not involved. In turn, Alice was obliged to pay me compensation and give up half of her house as well as the car that belonged to her. In addition, DNA testing showed that David was Charles' biological father, and he paid me the full amount I spent on the child. Since I divorced Alice, all her relatives sided with her, and my parents said it didn't matter much. The important thing was that you had a child, and it didn't matter who it was from. They all liked that Alice helped them financially. She bought new furniture at my parents' house and gave her parents a car. So after the divorce, everyone tried to convince me to reconcile with Alice. But I changed my residence and phone number so no one would bother me. I decided to share my story on social media, and it attracted considerable attention. Alice began to be harassed online, and David's reputation began to suffer. A few months after our divorce, David left Alice and severed their partnership, which was crucial to Alice's major advertising campaigns. Thus, she lost not only her man, but also her source of income, as her earnings were directly dependent on David's work. Alice was unable to find a new producer as her financial resources dried up and her childcare responsibilities remained. When she first started her career, I was able to help her with the baby. However, 8 months after her career difficulties began, even her family turned away from her as she stopped supporting them financially. I couldn't understand why Alice had changed her views so radically. When we met, she was an ordinary girl who wanted a simple and happy family life where everyone had everything they needed. I couldn't say exactly when I lost her, but it didn't matter now. I had seen from personal experience how money changed people, and her career and popularity had turned her into a creature who cared only about herself. I could forgive her cheating, but the fact that she got pregnant by another man was unforgivable to me. It was the most disgusting and horrible act a cheating wife could commit. I'd bought a house, trying to live modestly. I invested some of the money I managed to save in the bank at interest and kept the rest for current expenses. I continued to work, realizing that I was still young and that it was good that I realized everything in time. The worst thing would be to find out about all this after 30 years of marriage. So that's the end of the story. Write your opinion in the comments about this story. We'll be interested to read it. Also, don't forget to put a like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss new, no less interesting and exciting stories. Good luck!
Thank you so much for watching my video and your time. Please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell button. Also, I am very interested to know your personal opinion about this story. You can write it in the comments. I will definitely read it and reply to you personally.